The marble floors of Morton's Steakhouse clicked beneath my heels as I walked toward the restroom. Behind me, I could hear my brother Marcus laughing with Dad, probably celebrating their little power play. The smell of aged beef and truffle oil filled the air, food I could barely taste anymore after years of these family dinners where I was treated like the help. Finally putting her in her place, Marcus had said loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "No more pretending she's successful with our money." Our money. That phrase had echoed through 15 years of family gatherings. Every promotion I earned was luck. Every investment return was Dad's connections. Every achievement was somehow borrowed, temporary, not really mine. I'd stopped trying to correct them around year 7. Instead, I'd built something they couldn't see. While they argued about my supplementary card status, I'd been meeting with portfolio managers, real estate attorneys, and wealth advisors. While they mocked my little nonprofit job, I'd been structuring tax-advantaged investments across 4 sectors. While they planned this dinner to teach me humility, I'd been reviewing my quarterly statement that morning. $8.2 million in liquid assets, another $3.1 million in commercial real estate holdings. The restroom was empty. I checked my phone. My private banking advisor, Jennifer Chin, had texted, "James Morrison from First National just tried calling you. Says it's urgent regarding your brother." I smiled at my reflection in the mirror. Jennifer knew James well. We'd worked together on the hospital foundation board for 3 years. He was ruthlessly professional and deeply protective of his high-net-worth clients. This was going to be educational. I took my time, washed my hands slowly, reapplied lipstick. Let them sit with their victory for exactly 4 minutes. There's a philosophy in revenge I'd learned from building my portfolio. Timing creates compound returns. When I walked back, the atmosphere had changed completely. Marcus sat frozen, phone pressed to his ear, face the color of undercooked chicken. Dad leaned forward, trying to hear the conversation. My mother and sister-in-law watched with confusion spreading across their faces like spilled wine. I didn't know," Marcus stammered into the phone. "She never said." "Said what?" I asked pleasantly, sliding back into my seat. The chair's leather was cool against my back. I picked up my water glass. Heavy crystal, the kind that made a satisfying sound when set down firmly. Marcus's eyes met mine with something I'd never seen before. Fear mixed with dawning comprehension. "Mr. Morrison," he said weakly into the phone, "could you please explain this to my family?" He pressed speaker. James Morrison's voice filled the private dining room with the calm authority of someone who managed $2.3 billion in assets. "Good evening. I'm James Morrison, President of First National Private Banking. I apologize for the interruption, but I received an alert that someone attempted to cancel Ms. Emma Richardson's credit card." "She's on my account," Marcus said quickly. "I have every right." "That's the issue I'm calling about," James said, his tone professionally frigid. "Ms. Richardson is not an authorized user on any account. She is our largest private client with an $8 million investment portfolio, plus commercial real estate holdings valued at $3.1 million. The card you attempted to cancel is her personal platinum card with a credit line of $500,000. The silence was specific. Like the moment between lightning and thunder. "That's impossible," Dad said finally. "Emma works at a nonprofit. She makes maybe $50,000 a year." "I make $52,000, I corrected quietly. "I could make $280,000 in the private sector, but I prefer meaningful work." I took a sip of water. "The nonprofit salary covers my daily expenses. My investment income handles everything else." "Investment income from what?" My mother's voice cracked on the last word. James continued as if she hadn't spoken. "Ms. Richardson's portfolio includes diversified holdings in technology, healthcare, municipal bonds, and 4 commercial properties. She began building her portfolio at age 23 with an inheritance from her maternal grandmother. Grandma Helen's money," my sister-in-law whispered, "which she grew from an initial $250,000 to her current $8.2 million through 15 years of disciplined investment strategy and quarterly compound growth." I remembered the day Grandma Helen's lawyer called. I was 23, fresh out of college, sitting in a shared apartment with furniture from Goodwill. The family had assumed the inheritance would be split evenly. But Grandma Helen's will was specific. "To Emma, who listens. $250,000 and my belief in her capability." Marcus had called me selfish for not sharing it. Dad said Grandma Helen had been senile. Mom cried about fairness. I'd invested every dollar and never mentioned it again. Emma, Dad's voice was very quiet now. Why didn't you tell us? I tried. The words came out flatter than intended. When I bought my first rental property at 26, you said I was being irresponsible with Grandma's money. When I mentioned my investment returns at 29, Marcus said I was bragging about luck. When I tried to explain my portfolio strategy last year, you changed the subject to Marcus's promotion. I looked around the table. Really looked. You needed me to be struggling. You needed me to be the cautionary tale. The daughter who chose passion over profit, who needed family support, who proved you were right about playing it safe. If I was successful on my own terms, what did that say about your terms? We didn't know, Mom said weakly. You didn't ask. I turned to James on the phone. Thank you for the call, James. I'll stop by the bank this week to review account security protocols. Of course, Emma. My apologies again for the disruption to your dinner. The call ended. Microclimax by microclimax, I watched them process. Marcus set his phone down like it might explode. His hand trembled slightly, that little tell he'd had since childhood when caught in a lie. The rental properties. The 3-bedroom you said you house sat for a friend. I own it. And the duplex on Morrison Street. The commercial space on 5th. The medical building on Riverside. I counted them on my fingers. 4 properties total. About $3.1 million in value, as James mentioned. The medical building? Dad's face went white. Where I take Mom for her cardiology appointments. That's the one. Dr. Patterson's practice leases the 2nd floor. I bought the building in 2019 when it went into foreclosure. Renovated it. Brought it back to code. It's fully occupied now with medical professionals who actually pay rent on time. My sister-in-law made a sound halfway between a gasp and a laugh. The charity gala last month. When you said you helped organize it. I was the primary donor. $250,000 to the Children's Hospital Foundation. It's in the program if you'd looked. With gratitude to Emma Richardson, cornerstone benefactor. Each revelation landed like a chess piece claiming a square. The nonprofit where you work, Marcus said slowly. You said you loved it because it was meaningful. I do love it. I'm the director of strategic partnerships. I connect donors with causes. I make $52,000 a year because that's what I need to cover daily costs and maintain credibility with our working-class clients who don't trust rich people. I smiled without warmth. Turns out being rich and pretending you're not as excellent for fundraising. People tell me things they'd never tell someone who showed up in a Mercedes. You have a Mercedes? Mom looked ready to faint. I have a 2019 Honda Civic with 140,000 miles. The Mercedes is a terrible investment vehicle. High depreciation, expensive insurance, screams insecurity. I lean back in my chair. That's the difference between looking rich and being rich. You all chose looking rich. The waiter approached nervously with our entrees. Prime rib for Dad and Marcus. Lobster for Mom. I'd ordered the salmon special, $1.47, which they definitely noticed and judged. Your meals are on me tonight, I said as the plates landed. Consider it a celebration of family honesty. Emma, we didn't mean, Dad started. Yes, you did. I cut into my salmon. It was perfectly cooked, pink in the center, with a herb crust that smelled like rosemary and vindication. You meant to humiliate me in public. You meant to teach me my place. Marcus specifically chose a restaurant where his colleagues eat so they could witness my humiliation. Marcus's jaw tightened. Caught. You brought the waiter into it, made a show of canceling my card, wanted everyone to see that I was just an extension of your financial control. I took a bite. Chewed. Swallowed. Instead, they all heard James Morrison explain that I have more liquid assets than your entire retirement accounts combined. How much? Mom's voice broke. How much do we have saved? Dad didn't answer immediately. That was answer enough. About $450,000 across both IRAs and the 401k, I said quietly. You told me last year when you were worried about retirement timelines. You have the house, which is worth maybe $600,000 with the current market. So roughly $1.1 million in total assets at age 63. I didn't say what we were all thinking. I had 8 times that at 38. I helped build that, Dad said defensively. I gave you opportunities. You gave me a last name that opened doors I could have opened myself. You gave me advice I mostly ignored. You gave me criticism I learned to tune out. I set down my fork with precise care. What you didn't give me was belief, support, or acknowledgement. Those things I built alone. The ghost ledger had been building in my mind for 15 years. Every family dinner where they discussed Marcus's career while I cleared plates. Cost, self-worth. Every Christmas where they exchanged expensive gifts while giving me practical items from discount stores because I was struggling. Cost, dignity. Every time Dad introduced Marcus as my son the executive, and me as my daughter who works for a charity. Cost, identity. Every investment milestone I celebrated alone because telling them meant another lecture about risky behavior. Cost, joy. Every property closing I attended with only my realtor, signing papers that represented years of strategic saving while Marcus got family parties for buying a car. Cost, recognition. 812 family gatherings over 15 years. Roughly 42,000 individual micro-dismissals. Each one a small theft of something that couldn't be replaced or refunded. The ghost ledger balanced at a number that made my portfolio look modest. I should have believed in you, Dad said quietly. Yes. I didn't elaborate. Didn't soften it. Didn't make it easier. Can we? Mom reached for my hand across the table. Can we start over? I looked at her hand. The manicure she'd gotten yesterday with Marcus's credit card. The rings Dad bought her for anniversaries celebrated with champagne I wasn't invited to toast. The watch from last Christmas, expensive and tasteful while I'd received a candle. No, I said simply. We can't start over. We can only start from here, which is honest. What does that mean? Marcus asked. It means I'm not pretending anymore. Not pretending I'm struggling so you feel successful. Not pretending your opinions on my finances matter. Not pretending this family operates on equal respect. I pulled out my own credit card, platinum heavy with my name embossed clearly. It means I pay for my own meals, make my own choices, and expect basic courtesy in return. That's fair, Dad said slowly. It's not about fair. It's about finished. I caught the waiter's eye. Separate checks, please. Just mine. The bill came to $63. I added a $20 tip and signed without looking at their faces. I'm leaving, I said standing. You can finish your meal. You can discuss how this happened. You can decide if you're capable of treating me like an adult instead of a charity case. I shouldered my purse. A practical leather bag from a sustainable company, not designer, because I didn't need logos to prove worth. But here's what doesn't change. I've been successful for 15 years without your acknowledgement. I'll continue being successful with or without it. The difference is now you know. And now you get to decide if you're comfortable sitting at a table where you're not the most accomplished people in the room. I walked out through the main dining room. Could feel eyes following. Heard whispers starting. The valet brought my Honda Civic while a BMW and a Mercedes waited behind it. I tipped him $10 and drove home to my mortgage-free condo in the renovated warehouse district. $485,000 purchase price in 2020, now worth $790,000, where no one questioned my worth. 3 months later Marcus called. I let it go to voicemail. He called again the next day, and the day after. On the 4th call I answered. Emma. His voice was different. Smaller. Can we talk? We're talking now. I mean in person. I'll come to you. I met him at the cafe near my office. Neutral ground. He arrived 10 minutes early, already seated, coffee ordered for both of us. He'd remembered I take it black. I've been thinking, he started then stopped. Started again. I've been thinking about Grandma Helen. I waited. She used to tell me I was smart. Tell you that you were wise. I thought it was the same thing. He stared into his latte. It's not the same thing. No, I agreed. I told everyone at work what happened. About the dinner. About your portfolio. I thought, I don't know what I thought. That it would somehow make me look better. He laughed bitterly. My VP asked why I didn't have that kind of return on my investments. Said if my sister could do it, why couldn't I? What did you tell him? That I didn't know you'd done it. That I'd never asked what you were building. That I'd been so busy performing success that I forgot to achieve it. He met my eyes. I make $230,000 a year. I have $95,000 in my 401k and $30,000 in credit card debt. I drive a leased BMW and live in an apartment I can barely afford. I look rich and I'm broke. I know, I said gently. I've known for years. How? You spend like someone desperate to prove something. I invest like someone with nothing left to prove. We sat in silence. The cafe smelled like espresso and possibility. I can't undo 15 years, Marcus said finally. I can't make the ghost ledger balance. But I'd like to try being someone who doesn't need you to be small so I feel big. I considered this. Considered him. Considered whether redemption required total scorched earth or allowed for controlled burns. I'm having dinner with my investment club Tuesday, I said carefully. We meet monthly to discuss portfolio strategy, market trends, tax optimization. You're welcome to join if you're genuinely interested in learning. Investment club? He looked surprised. 6 of us. We met at a financial literacy workshop 10 years ago. Teachers, nonprofit workers, small business owners. None of us had family money or fancy degrees. We just decided to figure it out together. I finished my coffee. We're not impressive people by your standards. We're just people who decided being rich mattered more than looking rich. I'd like that. He pulled out his wallet. Let me. I've got it. I put down a 10. But next time you pay. And the time after that we split it. Because that's what equals do. 6 months after the dinner, I changed my emergency contact from none to Marcus's number. He'd attended every investment club meeting. Asked questions. Took notes. Started reading the books we recommended. Sold the BMW and bought a used Toyota. Moved to a cheaper apartment. Actually tracked his spending. He had $68,000 in his savings account now. Not $8 million. But his for the first time in his life. Dad and Mom I kept at distance. We talked once a month on scheduled calls. They asked about my work without dismissing it, mentioned my properties without sarcasm, acknowledged my success without qualification. It wasn't warm. But it was honest. And honest, I'd learned, was more valuable than warm lies. My portfolio hit $8.7 million last quarter. The medical building on Riverside just signed a 10-year lease extension. The nonprofit promoted me to Vice President of Development. My investment club was planning our annual retreat. 5 days in a rented cabin, splitting costs equally, talking about everything except money. The Honda Civic hit 150,000 miles. I planned to drive it to 200,000. I was rich in the ways that mattered. Free from debt. Free from pretense. Free from needing anyone's approval to know my worth. The credit card they'd tried to cancel sat in my wallet. Platinum. Interesting. I'd never needed their permission to use it. Just needed them to finally understand that.